Hi everyone, welcome to the middle school judge training video for the Minnesota Urban Debate League. The goal of this video is to give you an idea of what policy debate entails and the general expectations and responsibilities of a judge while at a tournament. First of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about policy debate. This is an activity in which two teams, one affirmative and one negative, debate about a specific issue. Each team is made up of two students, and these students take turns speaking during the round. The four speakers are designated by 1A and 2A, which stands for the first and second speaker on the affirmative team, and 1N and 2N, which is the first and second speaker on the negative team. Debates follow a specific structure, which we will talk about on the next slide. Judges are responsible for deciding which team wins the round based off of who provides better evidence and better arguments. This is not an activity where students are scored on sounding or looking nice. And the topic being debated this year is disarm the police. More information about the structure of a debate round can be found in the document titled Cheat Sheet, which should have been emailed to you. This chart outlines how a round is structured. It shows you the order of the speeches that will be given and how long each speech lasts. As a judge, you are responsible for keeping track of these speech times and letting students know when their time is up in case they are not keeping track and stopping on their own. They may do this, but they may not. I like to think of a round as being broken into two different parts. The first part is labeled in orange and yellow on this chart, and the second part in green. The first part of a debate includes the constructive arguments, which is when the debaters read evidence. The evidence they read will include the key arguments they will be using to convince you, the judge, that their team is right and their opponent is wrong. Each debater has 4 minutes to speak during their constructive argument. After each constructive argument, the opposing team will conduct a cross-examination. This is when speakers ask their opponent questions about what was just presented. The questions can be used to clarify any confusion or to poke holes in their opponent's argument. Cross-examinations last 2 minutes each. Typically, cross-examinations consist of one student asking another student questions. However, students may ask you if it's okay to tag team during the debate. This is when students on a team work together to either ask or answer questions during the cross-examination, and this is perfectly fine to do if you are comfortable with it. So students go back and forth between the constructive arguments and the cross-examinations until each student has gotten a chance to take part in each speech. Then we move on to the second part of a debate, which consists of the rebuttals, labeled in green on the chart. This is when speakers summarize the arguments that were presented, compare the strength of the arguments of each side, and explain why their team should win. Each rebuttal is 2 minutes long. On top of the speeches in the table, each team is allowed to have 5 minutes of preparation time. This is when they can talk to their partner or make a plan for what they're going to say in the future. The thing about prep time is it can only be used in between speeches, not during speeches. The students will tell you when they need prep time and when they're done. Finally, while prep time can be used all at once, it will usually be broken up throughout the round. Make sure you keep track of how much prep time each team has remaining during the round. Your responsibilities as a judge are outlined in the Judge Responsibilities document that was emailed to you. To start, during the debate, you will introduce yourself to the students and have them do the same. You will then lead the round. I like to use my cheat sheet to announce what is about to happen before beginning the timer. For example, I might say, okay, everyone, we are starting with the first affirmative constructive speech. You have 4 minutes. When the speaker begins that speech, I begin the timer. When the time is up, I say, great job. Next is the cross-examination. You have 2 minutes, and so on and so forth. While students are speaking, it's a real good idea to take notes about important points or arguments being brought up during the round. It's also a good idea to take notes about what students are doing well and what they can improve upon on the ballot. which we will talk about in just a minute. Finally, remember to make sure to track the time for speeches and preparation time during the debate. Next, you will score and provide commentary. Once the students finish debating, let them know if you need a minute to decide on a winner. When making your decision, think about which team told a more compelling story overall. Remember to focus on the arguments when deciding on a winner. Don't consider your personal opinion about the topic, physical appearance, or accents when making that decision. You will then fill out the ballot. How to fill out your ballot will be covered in more detail in a separate training video. Do know that you can use the document emailed to you titled Helpful Comments for Students if you would like some guidance on what to write on the ballot. Once you have gathered your thoughts, you will spend a few minutes sharing with the students, first of all, who won the round. You will then share your RFD, or reason for decision. This should be 2 to 3 sentences that state and compare the strongest arguments from the round and explain how that influenced your final decision. Finally, share some thoughts on what each team did well and what they can work on for next time. Finally, you will turn in your ballot and repeat. Once you're finished sharing your thoughts, make any final changes to your ballot, hit submit, and enter your next round. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about some other judge expectations. First and foremost, we'd like everyone to be aware of implicit bias while judging. This is having attitudes or stereotypes about people without conscious knowledge of it. It's something we all do naturally. We like to share some common implicit biases in the debate world with judges so we can all be more aware and mindful about them during rounds and avoid them. While judging, keep in mind that in debate, females tend to receive more comments about clothing and pitch of voice. These are things we should not take into consideration during debate. Also, females tend to receive more comments about being aggressive. Third, teams that are dressed nicer, maybe have a nicer looking Zoom background, or don't run into tech issues might be scored higher during a round. And lastly, people with accents tend to be docked speaker points. Again, these are all things that should not affect our final decisions while judging a debate round. All in all, remember that you're not here to be the cool judge. You are here to be an educator and a caring adult for youth. These kids will be looking up to you and they'll be taking what you tell them very seriously. In addition to being aware of implicit bias, I would like to touch upon the sensitive nature of the topic being debated this year, disarming the police. Discussions in your debate rounds may be triggering for students, which means conversations may bring on a stress response in a person because of an underlying memory of trauma, especially with recent events that have taken place. During the debate season, students will talk about this and learn about self-awareness and self-care, how to have a healthy argument and respond to conflict, in hopes that this will give students the tools they need to respond to a trigger in a healthy way. There are a few things you can do as a judge to support students in this. First, do the best you can to create an environment that feels safe, supportive, and welcoming for students. If during a round you notice an argument is getting a little heated or a student is beginning to lose their cool, please either ask the students if they would like to or just announce that you are all going to take a quick 3-minute break, turn off or leave your cameras regardless of where you're at in the round. The students will be aware that this may happen and should be aware of some self-regulation tools that they can use to calm down if they need to. Also know that students can request a break during a round. Sometimes it's not very obvious to an observer when somebody needs this or is being triggered. So if a student does ask for a break, please allow it. And finally, if an incident does take place, please inform a staff member just so we can check in with the student afterwards. So to sum this training up, when you enter a debate round, you will first introduce yourself. You will then listen to the debate. Please be aware of your opinions and biases and set them aside. Also make sure to keep track of speech times. Throughout the round, actively listen to the debates and take notes about important points or arguments. Make sure to hold a supportive space for students, remind students that mistakes are okay, and offer encouragement, especially if someone is looking particularly nervous. Once the round is over, you will score and give feedback. I like to score students based on how well they brought the entire debate together to tell a story about why they should win. This should include points from both the affirmative and negative sides. And then use the positivity sandwich for feedback. Start with something the team did well, offer a suggestion, and then finish it up with something else they did well. If you notice something like poor sportsmanship during the round, this is a great time to mention it. When you're done scoring and giving feedback, submit your online ballot and move on to your next round. And finally, contact UDL staff if any problems arise or if you have any questions. Thank you so very much for taking the time to watch this video. The other video emailed to you includes instructions about how to get into your virtual debate round and how to fill out and submit your ballot online. Please make sure to watch that video as well before your round. If you have any questions, please email udlvolunteers@augsburg.edu. You can also arrive to the virtual tournament a little early to ask any questions if you prefer. Thank you again, and we look very forward to seeing you at the virtual tournament.